You're listening to the Sports Scramble Podcast, where four friends serve up a weekly plate of sports with a side of SEC bias. Now, here are your hosts, Chet, Jacob, Wade, and Tyler.
Let's go!
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Scramble Podcast, brought to you by Belly Up Sports. How are y'all doing today?
Doing dandy.
Doing good.
We good.
We're missing our fourth with Wade being out for his fiance's birthday. Should we all sing happy birthday to Elise real quick?
Let's do it.
Oh, happy birthday to you. Okay, we're all off tone. We'll just do that. That's enough right there.
We're trying.
Happy birthday to Elise.
Yeah.
Wade's taking her out to a nice dinner. I hope that he spends all of his money he won on his picks this week, because he did have one of our winning upset picks. But we've got NASCAR Neil on. He's filling in. We'll have him drop in. Now that NASCAR season's over, he's got to come on for more than just NASCAR sports.
Yeah.
So, Neil, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good.
I understand you're still defrosting from going to the LSU Arkansas game.
I am. That was a very, very cold day.
Yeah, you sent us pictures of your seats. Had to sit on some snow, some ice, put a beer box down to kind of give yourself some warmth and not have your pants soaking wet.
Exactly. If it works, it works, man.
Yeah, you broke the curse, though, with all of the LSU games you've been to as a fan. We've seemed to have lost, so I was a little worried with that one, but we'll go more into it once we get into the college football talk. But NASCAR Neil's on. We had the season wrap up last week. Neil, how'd it go? I know your boy Joey Logano ended up getting it done. What'd you think of the season, and what's your predictions going forward?
I think the season was crazy, and I was kind of talking to you about kind of recapping the whole thing because it was hyped up as being the big year, new car coming to the season. So I kind of made some notes of what happened with the year because it was a very unique season. Mm-hmm. It was kind of unique in the way it started off with a race inside the famous LA Coliseum. They built a little track in there. It happened. Joey Logano happened to win that too to start the year off. Kind of funny how he booked into the season, you know. Then we go in with the Duels of Daytona, which are like some preseason like heat races to kind of set the order for the opening race, and we had it swept by a team just totally wasn't very fast. It had a new ownership stake, and they ended up sweeping that. It was kind of crazy. Started off with crazy. The new car was hyped up, brand new thing, all from scratch. A lot of new parts that weren't traditionally in the older style cars. Almost all the parts came from the same manufacturer, whatnot. It started off with a lot of bad issues of things breaking and them not knowing how to repair them quickly. A lot of tires being cut, them trying to tow them, causing more damage, and teams just learning to figure it out. It was kind of crazy. Like,
let me ask you this real quick. What was the difference between all of them had new cars this year, didn't they?
Yes, it was.
New body styles?
It was a new body style, and this car they called the next gen car. And traditionally, the teams would build their own cars from themselves. Right. They build your own chassis, all your parts. This car is every part has to come from an approved supplier. It's kind of make it supposed to drive down costs, make it more parity, which I was about to get into. Parity came out. We ended up with, I think we ended up with 17 new winners total, and 15 of which came in the regular season and stuff. So that was crazy with that. And then the season kind of was kind of crazy. We didn't have our first repeat winner till week 9, where traditionally, sometimes you can have a driver get their second win week 4 or 5 of the season. It just generally a car will get fast and be good and they get win. But even week 9 was the first repeat winner. That was William Byron, who would really have thought him as being the first repeat winner. He's typically seen as the 3rd or 4th car of that organization, of the Hendrick Motorsports camp and stuff. And then going to the middle of the season, we had a lot of silly season news, which is our term for off-season type talk of, free agency in a kind of way, with Martin Truex Jr. coming back or not coming back. He was considering retirement. Then he decided not to retire, came back to his ride. His sponsors were on board. And then the insane news that I talked about earlier in the year on the show about Tyler Reddick announcing the week after winning his first race and 2 weeks after signing a 1-year extension with RCR to go to 2011 after the following season. And I'll get to how that's not actually the case later on in my recap and stuff. It was kind of thing. Then also Kyle Busch talks of him not going back to Joe Gibbs Racing. Middle of the season, that kind of came to light. People were talking about it as a chance. Hindsight ended up being true, but middle of the season is a big talking point in all the news and stuff. And then the second half. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like the NASCAR seseason played out like a soap opera here. I mean, we had
kinda
all sort of people switching teams, retiring, coming back.
I mean, it's just like the term in NASCAR for free agency and changing is silly season because you hear so many silly rumors. There's a lot of jokes about so-and-so going to the 5 car because it's always a hot topic of every time somebody's going somewhere, it's always a 5 car for some reason. You know, it's just kind of the joke. But then on a more serious note, towards the middle of the season kind of settled down a little bit. Still a lot of new drivers winning. You know, some of the familiar faces were getting their wins. You know, Chase Elliott got his win. Kyle Busch managed to win it at the Bristol Dirt Race. Larson got a win. The familiar faces you see in victory lane were getting their first win. You know, some guys were getting their second win. And then, but the big shifting point of the season became at Pocono, where Kurt Busch got in a wreck during practice that put him out for the remainder of the year.
I remember seeing that.
It was a really mild wreck at the time. Looked like kind of got loose coming out of turn 3 or 6, depending on how you classify them. It's a weird track. They call them weird things there. But he got it loose and hit the back end, which was a mild hit and stuff, and it put him out for ended up being the whole year and stuff. And that race also saw the first time the first and second place of a race had ever been disqualified after the race and been stripped of their win. But Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch losing that win there, which it's also kind of funny. You look at hindsight, as I've said before in this thing, is that Denny Hamlin missed the championship 4 barely by 2 points, which he would have had those points had he not been disqualified at Pocono. Kind of craziness of that whole thing, you know. And then if the regular season couldn't get any crazier, you had Daytona. In the year, I'm personally a big fan of them ending the year there at a wild card track where anything can happen. And lo and behold, NASCAR as an organization made some blunders. Rain was moving in. It started raining in turns 3 and 4. They decided to keep going green. And as the cars came out of 1 and 2, they all lost control and piled up going into 3.
Yeah, that was a huge wreck.
When that massive happened. Wreck. They threw the red flag. And a lot of fans and other drivers were not really happy with ending the race because they were technically the race had hit over halfway through, which is their official point to call a race as official.
Right.
And they go, how do you end a race with that much controversy? They managed to go back green in the one bubble, and we ended up having our 15th new win of the regular season at that point, which is Austin Dillon got the win after actually being in the lead at their red flag. Only issue was Ryan Blaney had gained enough spots to pass Truex for that last playoff spot and stuff. And then we go into when the playoffs started. It was a really good, crazy playoffs start the first round with all 3 races being won by non-playoff drivers. First time a non-playoff driver had ever actually won a playoff race, much less the first 3. So it was just insanity there, you know. And then we go into Texas. Alex Bowman had a wreck there. It put him out for the next 5 races again.
But you were there, weren't you? You were at
I was
race.
there. And that race, that wreck didn't even seem that serious because he finished the race, but after the fact, he felt some lingering issues in the days leading after it. And that's when the safety concerns.
When you get in a car wreck going, 300 miles an hour, you're going to feel something the next day or two. That's for sure.
I mean, it's one of those things. He got to the wall, kind of got clipped up, but he finished the race, though. His car finished the race. It didn't total his car out and stuff. And it really wasn't even the most severe wreck of the day. And the most severe wreck, the guy was fine the next week with a broken foot. But it was just, you know, and that kind of brought the safety of this new car to light. And it actually led to NASCAR doing some more testing at their test facility to actually soften up the rear of the car, which where these major injuries and wrecks were happening at, which was nice to see them actually willing to make changes. But a lot of public outcry from the drivers were highly critical of the organization and whatnot. And then to end that round, Christopher Bell, in a must-win situation, gets the win there. You know, insane move, wins that round, and then you roll into, you know, to end the round of 3, he does it again. A second must-win situation. He manages to rise to the occasion and stuff. At that point, he kind of pushed to more of my championship favorite there, you know. But also in that round, we had a major moment where Bubba Wallace intentionally wrecked Kyle Larson at Vegas in the first race of round of 3, which led to him being suspended for the next race. For the first time ever.
Hasn't been getting too much good publicity lately. He's had a little bit of stringy season this year, hadn't he?
I mean, he's had an okay season. I mean, he did get his first outright win at a non-plate race at Kansas, being the I think it's the second time ever that a car had won the same track in the same year with two different drivers after Kurt Busch winning there in the spring. Which, I mean, that was pretty good news. But then it finished up 2 weeks later, potentially wrecking Larson on a blatant bad move. Like the guy hooked him into the wall at 109 miles per hour. That's just dangerous, especially with safety have been such a big concern the previous couple of weeks, and it actually come out that the owner, his team, Michael Jordan's business partner, had came out and publicly had criticized it with Michael Jordan being a co-owner of the team he drives for. It was a bad week publicity wise, but he come week after suspension, he handled like a man and said, "I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that," which takes a lot of a person,
Yeah. Own up to your mistakes.
Oh yeah, which he hasn't notoriously been good for that. So, but then kind of after that, at the same time, the silly season wrapped up with Kyle Busch announcing he was going to RCR Racing, which shocked almost a lot of people because there's some history with him and the owner, Richard Childress. Several years ago, they got in a fist fight on pit road. To which point, there's a famous line where Richard tells his grandson, Austin Dill, who no one drives for him, to hold his watch for him as he goes to punch Kyle Busch. Ooh. And at his press conference, Richard hands him a Rolex saying stuff, "Will you please hold my watch for me?" as a signing bonus gift, which was kind of funny. Play back to the day. It was pretty clever. And then with that announcement, 2 weeks later, Kurt Busch announced his retirement, still having issues with his concussion from Pocono. Really sad. The guy's been around. He was the last active driver to ever race against Dale Sr., which kind of ends that era of the drivers who raced against the legend, and whatnot, And then, and with that news, Richard Childress also announced he was going to release Tyler Reddick, as I mentioned earlier, who signed this deal for 2 years from now, released him to go run for them next year, which it's happy still wraps the bow up, kind of, it makes everything kind of better on the long run on that,
Right.
Yeah,
Kyle and
nice.
Kurt, are they related at all?
Yes, they're brothers. Kurt is Kyle's older brother. So
they need to be sponsored by Busch Light or something. I mean, you're just like missing chances there if they're not.
It's also kind of funny because they both were sponsored by energy drinks, and one of them actually owns a competitive energy drink.
Okay. Well, hey, Kyle and Kurt, if you're looking for somebody to rep your energy drink, you know where to find us. Give Nascar Neil a call.
I freaking love his energy drinks. It's called Rowdy Energy. Personally, a big fan of it. Okay. But then you kind of go into the championship weekend. Joe Logano dominated the Cup race. Zane Smith won the truck race, and a really good finish. They were fighting hard at the end. But then the kind of sad news kind of came with Saturday and Saturday night with Ty Gibbs.
Yeah,
who I was very critical of. Had wrecked like an asshole at Martinsville. Did a bad move. After winning his championship that night, his father actually passed away in his sleep. And it kind of came out.
We mentioned that last week. It was very sad to hear that.
It was just really sad. And then Sunday morning stuff had kind of come out that Ty Gibbs, who's running Cup for Kurt Busch all year, kind of came out. He wasn't racing. It was kind of no one really knew. Then it broke up for the race. It's really kind of sad. It's even in the football world, which y'all know with football, Joe Gibbs, famous Hall of Fame football coach. Is his youngest son, his second son, whose older son died 3 years ago too. It's just really kind of sad for that family. And even me, is like, I crucified Ty Gibbs all week. I thought he would terrible moves. The media was all bad on him, but I kind of softened up for him a little bit. It's just brutal, but then Joe Logano wins championship, and it almost gets overshadowed in a way by that news, but plus the other news that Jimmy Johnson, Mr. 7 times, announced that same weekend he was buying into Petty GMS Racing to be a co-owner.
There we go. Is that an often thing for NASCAR drivers to buy into a racing company?
Some of them have ownership stakes in either lower tiers, or like the guy Brad K here. He bought into Roush Fenway Kozlowski this year. He'll have ownership stake. Denny Hamlin owns 2311. Kyle Busch owns a truck team. Some guys that like to do it, and with Jimmy Johnson ran IndyCar all year, and did it 1 year, then decided it really went for him. He kind of struggled on some stuff. Ran the Indy 500, did okay. But NASCAR was his bread and butter. The man won 5 straight championships. The dude's NASCAR legend. 7-time champion. He's in company with Richard Childress. With Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Yeah,
Only
I
guys
mean,
can do
whenever
it.
you
And
hear
it's
his name, that's definitely something.
oh yeah,
As someone who doesn't follow NASCAR as much, when I hear
yeah,
his name come across the
yeah,
radio, definitely
yeah. It's
listening to that.
it's a big deal. And he bought into Petty GMS, which is the team Richard Petty them own. They don't really own much of the company anymore, but it's more their name carries it. And then GMS Racing, which is kind of very spur of the moment to the point that it happened like the week 2 weeks before it actually got announced. It's very quick, last minute.
Right.
But with that news, it announced that he was actually running next year's 500 race potentially if he can qualify in.
Okay.
Which you never hear about. No driver chooses to run the plate races. No one. It's too dangerous. It's something that you have to be at the top of your game to be successful at them, much less be safe at it. So
right.
That kind of news. He's going to run select races. I guess he'll run the street course at Chicago. He'll try to run the All-Star race at Wilkesboro and some of the other stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much a season thing. It's going to be a fun off season to see what officially happens. The 18 car has not been officially announced. The tag game's running that next year. It's going to happen at some point. When it does, I'll come back on here and talk about that kind of news. When it officially does break. But yeah, that's pretty much the season. Nutshell. We start back in 98 days at Daytona. So.
Oh wow, that's quick. That's a quick little silly season, as you call it. Quick off season.
Yeah, they start the week after Super Bowl is typically when they run that. The clash at the Coliseum will be 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. So yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, you don't want to cut into the Super Bowl's airtime. Well,
no.
I heard on Sunday it was a bad day to be a cold beer at a NASCAR race because that was a good day for 22 running good and a bad day to be a cold beer. That's saying I heard get thrown around. So
yeah. I mean, the man got a second championship. Dude was he fast car on the track that day? There was no competing in it. Seemed like all 3 races the fastest car won. Friday night, Zane Smith, I think he'd finished second the last 3 years in the championship. He finally got his win. Ty Gibbs the JRM cars could not catch him. Like they could not do anything to him. They raced him clean after the talks of them wrecking him. And then Logano just had the short run speed. And Phoenix always comes down to whoever has the short run speed. The last 3 years, the short run cars won it. So it was very exciting end of the year. Kind of boring in a way, but still. Oh, I also forgot to mention the talking about the playoffs was at Martinsville. We had the Hail Melon, as it's being called, where Ross Chastain ran the wall video game style to win that race.
I saw that. I saw that on Twitter. That was insane.
Yeah,
talk about a way to end a race. He just full sent it into the wall and just passed everybody up.
And it got him the playoffs too. He was outside the playoffs. And even the other drivers were talking about they were impressed with it. Some drivers saying they need to ban it. We never know. And there was a whole talk all week long in Phoenix. Are we going to see it at Phoenix? We're going to see it at Phoenix. Phoenix Walls happens to bow out right as you enter 3 and 4. It wasn't possible to do it, but it was still crazy. Whether they ban it for next year, we won't know. But that was the season in a nutshell. I'm excited for next year at the Clash. Should be a fun year to talk it off, see what changes they do make to the car, see how it firms in year 2. If the parity is really there.
Yeah, well, you've got the platform to come talk about it now, and we'll have to get you on some of the other NASCAR shows we've been following. That way, you can get out there and just start spreading the word. So
appreciate it. Cool.
I mentioned some cold beer during the show. I'm drinking a cold beer here, pregame by Buffalo Bayou. We'll see if we get that in your camera there. Our gracious sponsors over here at Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company in Houston sent me this new beer they got going on. They've had it out for about a month. Distributed it middle of football season. Good 4% alcohol, not a lot. A little IPA, pregame crush city is what they call it. So they were crushing them during the Astros World Series run. I've been crushing them during LSU football success. I think the key to LSU success is that Buffalo Bayou's been sponsoring us. What do you think about that, Tyler? Do you think that's what's been happening?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll have to. We're in talks with them to do a live show there. If I can get all y'all to Houston, and we get a little live show. Maybe we get NASCAR Neil in the crowd, trying some beers, give some NASCAR talk. It'd be a fun time.
I might be able to come down there. It's not too far from me.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get it before the end of the year with the holidays coming up, but I think maybe beginning of next year we'll talk about something. We got college basketball going on. We got Super Bowl playoffs will be going on for the NFL.
Exactly.
So, but if you're over in Houston, you got to go check out our friends at Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company. Let them know we sent you. Best beer or best brews, best views of the entire city. So let's kick it into another sport we don't cover a lot. We got the World Cup coming up. I don't know how much y'all watch soccer. I really only watch the World Cup. I know Tyler, soccer guy, played in high school. He loves some soccer. I saw the USA is slated to take on England on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. Talk about just an all-American patriotic holiday. Day after Thanksgiving, we're taking on England. It was enough we beat them in 1776, and now we got to beat them on Thanksgiving. So Tyler, you think the Team USA can make a deep run this year?
It's definitely tough. I mean, there's a lot of good teams out there. I mean, USA is probably not the best team out there. I mean, you got Argentina, Brazil. You pretty much got all of your, France is good. Croatia had that run.
I'll be rooting for my boys down in Croatia. That's for sure.
But yeah, this was definitely going to be some fun times for USA soccer fans because this has been a long time coming. I don't think that they made the World Cup since like 2010 or 13. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long
women's
time.
team is usually pretty good, but
like they've been missing the cut not only for the World Cup but for the Olympics. So I think game one is definitely going to be huge against Wales. I feel like you got to win that one. So I think that Black Friday game, like you mentioned, USA and England, whoever wins that one will pretty much win the group. I think whoever wins that one will pretty much beat, because soccer, it's like weird. It's like it's the top two teams go on, and then they pick from a pool of the third place teams as well. But as long as you like win the division, you're fine. You get like an easier opponent. So hopefully, USA can at least win the group. I think they have a good chance against England. But even if they lose that match, I still feel confident that they can come out of that group. I think that they'll be able to beat Wales on their first game. So that first game is going to be a telltale all. I think if they win that game, they'll be set up. But if they lose, then it might be a quick trip for the USA out there in Qatar.
Well, hopefully we can get a good tune-up game with with USA or with Wales for Team USA. Jacob, I don't know if you saw what I sent y'all on Twitter earlier this week. Qatar is offering the fans a place to stay. It looks like a storage unit. You pay a whopping $300 a night, but you have a nice little fern outside of your door. So, Jacob, are you staying there, or are you gonna venture out into the city and try to find a place to stay?
I don't know if that little tiny bit of greenery is enough for me to stick around. I think number one, for anybody who hasn't been to Qatar, they're
real quick. Has anybody here been to Qatar?
No.
I
don't think so. I won't either.
Their economy is non-existent, so I can see where it comes from. Them needing something to get them over the edge, but I don't understand why they chose that venue in the first place. It just seems like a bad spot. Out of all the places
they had like
in the world,
60 people die building the stadium.
I'll do if y'all want me to mention it, but
we'll let Jacob finish and then we'll hear your proposal.
It just seems like there were so many better places to do it. It hasn't been in the U.S. for a very long time,
but it's coming back in years.
Yeah, coming back soon. In a few years.
Yeah, and it just seems like all the good stuff is on the horizon, even for the Olympics. Coming back, and it just seems like that was a very bad place to choose. I mean, there's other places that were even worse, but that one's up there with some of the worst.
Tyler, what's your proposal for the World Cup?
Well, I've been saying this for years. Same with the Olympics. I mean, going back to Rio, we know how that went. That was one of the most travesty and the most dog water venues ever for the Olympics.
Hey, but it looked cool.
Yeah, it looked cool, but in the end, like the athletes,
the statue of Jesus.
That was
and the World Cup there too was also bad. Like all the atrocities they committed to host that too. It's like, why are we letting these terrible third world countries host the most prestigious events in the world?
So my proposal is let's scratch all these small countries and third world countries and let's just put it in a rotation. USA goes a year, and then in 4 years, like France can go, and then the next 4 years, like Japan can go. Like just get like a list of countries. You go through that. It's pretty much like how like the Super Bowl runs in, like all the major professional teams run. Like they go to one Super Bowl. One city hosted, and they pretty much go on a rotation. So I think that they needed to do that because these third world countries, they like Jacob mentioned, like their economy isn't great, so they pretty much are breaking the bank. And when are they going to use it ever again? Probably never. Just look at Rio once again, like all like the swimming, pools that they use, they don't even use it anymore. Half of it's abandoned. So I think they just need to go to rotation.
I get it because in a sense you can, that country makes a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah.
a ton of money off of
lose a
that.
lot of money on these stadiums. They're never even using it. Like,
Sure.
but didn't Qatar build a stadium? They're literally out of shipping containers so they can tear it down once it's over with.
Yeah.
I mean, and I like what Tyler was saying is that with that, it also cut down the cost because you have these venues. If you're on rotation, you're going to use, if you can build it to be, you can kind of build it in a way that they use them every 25 years. You can build it in a way and where you're not upkeep. Also, the U.S. the way the U.S. has done it. I know what they're doing in the World Cup here and they're talking Olympics now is having several cities in the U.S. do it, which will cut back on the infrastructure costs. It's a huge way to do, especially the Olympics. With air travel being as easy as it is, you can fly somebody across the country, just put a standard time zone for all events, just for the U.S. to have it all on, say, Central Time, or Mountain Time, one middle time zones for all events. So the athletes aren't having to worry about time where they're all on just one time zone. So you can go from Florida to California, keep them on that one time zone schedule for everything they do. It really won't even be that big a deal with jet lag going across the country for different events or whatnot, or even host certain events in different parts of the country. It makes the U.S. hosting these things, it's brilliant. It'd be a smart way to do things.
Neil, you might have to be a World Cup correspondent now. I mean, you got the solution right there. I mean, they call it the World Cup for a reason. You want to highlight all the countries, but
or the Olympics. I mean, my name is more for the Olympics wise. The Olympics, you can have like all the baseball, all the swing events in one place. All the, all that kind of you can set it up in different parts. For the Winter Olympics, it's easy. Do it all in the Colorado or Colorado, California. It's easy to do it that way. Like, it makes too much sense.
I mean,
I think for the World
also.
Cup, I think the Women's World Cup, I believe in 2026, is going to be 3 countries hosting it. They're doing Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So that's
just
another
North America as a whole
thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that the people controlling it is the problem. I mean,
it's all about the money. It's all about who pays the money.
I mean, there's documentaries on these organizations, and FIFA is one of them, one of the most corrupt sports organizations ever created. And it's just a bunch of billionaires and trillionaires from other countries that control it. And it's a money and power situation, and it's one of the worst ever created in sports. There's a lot of good documentaries out there to watch, a lot of good like E60s. There's documentaries on Netflix.
I think next week will be 2, since it'll be kind of a down week for college football. We have Cameron come on because Cameron's a big World Cup guy, big World Cup, big FIFA guy. He's big into the conspiracies. We'll have him come on, kind of give a little World Cup prediction here, and we can talk some World Cup craziness. I mean, safety's another thing. A lot of these fans, you always hear about fans being kidnapped in these countries, held for ransom, and then you just got to pay it. I mean, they're not there doing anything wrong, but it's part of the way that some of these terrorist groups get money. Like there was a story a few weeks ago, I actually heard from our friends over at Patriot Sports Radio. There is, I forget where the guy was from, but he was walking to Qatar for the World Cup. And when he got to Iran, he disappeared. Nobody knows where he's at. So, I mean, you could kind of put 2 ends together and figure out where he went. So,
and I'm going to add to this, though, about, Qatar, we all think of sports, we all think of drinking. Qatar, as most of the Middle East, you can't have alcohol. And they've actually banned alcohol at the World Cup. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
how are they? Event.
Yes, like it goes 2 and 2. And the fact that if you get caught with alcohol, it's massive jail time there. Like, what are we do? What are they doing? Like, why are we letting this? And you're gonna have average fans who don't realize that and get themselves in a lot of trouble. Even no matter how many times state departments throughout the world are gonna warn you on this, people are still gonna screw up on that. So
you're gonna have a Brittany Griner situation all over again. Now, hold on, is it Qatar or Qatar? Because I might be saying it wrong.
That's how you say Qatar.
It's like what Jacob's got behind him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because I've heard it both ways. So we want to make sure we're saying it right so they don't come after us.
Qatar, but Qatar.
But yeah, I mean, the World Cup, they got to figure out the situation with the countries.
It will be interesting to see how the viewership does as well, because usually it's in the summer and it's like NFL season, college football season. Pretty much all the other sports are going on. So I don't know how
200 degrees in the summer.
Yeah. Well, I get that. But I'm definitely going to be interested how the viewership Is this
Is there a
still gonna be?
time zone difference between
it-
America? I know USA and
way
England play at
different.
noon.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's like
I'll look it up right now. I'll look it
Yeah,
up.
It has
I
to be
mean,
at least 6 hours, I would say.
I'm sure they've
6
got it
hours.
At
figured
least.
out how to broadcast
What is the country?
it.
Is it it's UAE? UAE is closer, I think. So it's Abu Dhabi is 10 hours ahead, so it's roughly 10 hours time difference.
So they're going to be in the future
Man,
10 hours
while
ahead
we're
of us.
watching them. Think about
Roughly
that
around 10
one.
hours.
they're gonna be the next day by the time they play.
Plus or minus an hour there because I'm not exactly. That's off our central time zone here.
Yeah.
Plus or minus 10 hours. An hour
they're
or two.
they're
By
9
the time we
hours
wake up, the
ahead.
World Cup's gonna be over.
Yeah, let that one float around your brains there for a second. We're watching the future. So I know that's not how time zone works, but just think about it. Okay, enough World Cup talk. We've been 30 minutes. We haven't talked about college football.
We'll talk more
Let's
about it next week whenever it
Yeah,
comes
we'll definitely have them next week. Let's just dive right into it. So I spoke to the guys before the show. We've agreed that we're going to do our Who Got That Dog in Them segment first. And Tyler has prepared a nice little clip. So here you go. Who got that dog in them? What is this, week 10?
Actually going into week 12.
Going into week 12. I think y'all all know who got that dog in them from me. And it might be the same for y'all, but we'll let Jacob start it off if he's ready.
No.
Okay,
I
never
cannot
mind.
start it off.
No.
I'll start it off with
Okay.
Harold Perkins Jr., the best player on the LSU football team by far. I know that might be a little bit of a stretch, but in my eyes, that man's going to win the Heisman. He's going to be one of the first defensive linebackers to win the Heisman in a long time. I can't tell you the last defensive player that won the Heisman. I know Manti Te'o was there a few years ago. And all the stuff with his fake girlfriend came out. And, I mean, that might have impacted his votes a little bit. But Harold Perkins Jr., without him, LSU loses that game on Saturday. I mean, the offense did not show up. Arkansas figured out how to play there at the end. But he had 4 solo sacks, ties the record for most sacks in a game by an LSU player. Should have been 2 strip fumbles or sack strip fumbles, however you want to say it. Last one won the game. And, I mean, he's just all over the field. Like, they're trying to block him. He's on the ground being tackled. He's still getting around and getting to that quarterback. So that's who's got that dog in him for me, Harold Perkins. I mean, he's going to be something special. Definitely probably top 10 draft pick in a few years. And we still get it for 2 more years. Tyler, who do you got?
I'm going to go to the NBA here.
Okay. Going outside of college football.
Yeah,
right?
Going from the game last time. I'm going to go Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans. I mean,
Okay.
The Pelicans were up 18 points and they blew it. Houston was up in the fourth quarter. And then I'm not going to like his performance. I mean, Jose Alvarado did have a good performance. Looking at his stat line, he had 12 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, but he got into an altercation with Kevin Porter Jr. They both got ejected at the end of the game because as always, Jose Alvarado was in the corner, Grand Theft Alvarado like he always does. He got into Kevin Porter Jr.'s head. He stole the ball from him, and Kevin Porter Jr. pretty much like slapped him on the wrist, and Alvarado didn't like that. So they all had altercation. Everyone all the benches cleared. So Jose Alvarado got the dog in him.
I like it. I mean, he was lurking in the playoffs on Chris Paul. He's been lurking. That's his signature move. I don't know how teams don't plan for that. Neil, do you have somebody for who got that dog in him? We kind of sprung it on you here. Okay.
Justin Jefferson in that Vikings game today. That man made a catch that would make Odell jealous. That reach up there, grab. He really sealed the deal on their overtime drive for the their overtime drive there. He was key to them staying into that game late in the game. I was almost going to say Eric Kendricks for that fumble recovery to win the game for him, but Justin Jefferson just had the drive there.
Yep.
Kept them in that game, allowed them to win. So good on him for that.
Yeah. All right, Fletch. You had enough time. Who's got that dog in?
Wide receiver Braden Lindsey from Notre Dame with the craziest catch of the year.
That was insane. That's like catch of the year right there.
Yeah, off the back from the Navy DB, throws it into the end zone, basically a Hail Mary into double coverage, and catches it on the DB's back. Basically hugs him, says goodnight, and one handset thing, brings it around. And that was the craziest catch I've seen all year. Definitely props to him. Notre Dame's coming back around a little bit. So watch out for them. I think they're
they're
looking for
20
blood
now.
late in the
That
season.
luck of the Irish, baby.
Yeah, luck of the Irish to coming back. I mean, that was an insane catch. I saw that and I was like, holy cow. So, but yeah, that's our Who Got That Dog in Him segment. I mean, mine, I feel like every week is Perkins. It's an LSU player. That's because, I mean, that's who I'm tapped into. But maybe with the more sports kick it off, we'll get somebody else out there.
I figure I get basketball in here since y'all are going to go on football.
Well, and you're at the Pelicans.
Oh, yeah.
You work for them now, so you've always got the insight to what the Pelicans are doing and who's
it added to the much needed win. So
yeah, exactly. So well, let's just kick right off into LSU. I mean, Neil was at the game. Neil, how'd you feel? You're defrosted now, I can see. So
that game was very stressful and very cold.
Yeah,
it was.
We were worried the NASCAR Neil curse was going to live on. Neil's never been at a game where we won, and at least he's worked them, but he's not been a fan. So
yeah.
I was on a 0-2 streak there.
Yeah.
They broke it. It started off with Chet and Wade starting the claiming the curse in 2017 with Troy. So,
yeah, that one was rough. That was the first game that you watched with us, and I was like, "What are you doing here, man?"
And I still blame you. I still kind of blame you for that because you told me not to go to work and stay at the tailgate that day. So,
I mean, it is what it is.
If you would have went to work, we probably could have beat Troy.
Maybe so.
But
I will say that it was a very fun game. Like, it was kind of fun. I personally love that stadium in that environment. It's a beautiful area. It's why I kind of chose about this game. I got my dad to go with me. I told him, like, hey, it's probably one of the best places to go.
Yeah.
I love it up there. We went, had a blast. Like, it was kind of fun. It says cold,
snow.
But it snowed that night. And it was funny. Like, we'd heard it snow, and where we stayed up north of Fayetteville, it didn't snow at all. As we're going in towards campus, they snowed everywhere. It was kind of cool. They have a giant famous statue of the Razorbacks out there stadium covered in snow. Was beautiful. Seeing was nice, It's very rare do I get to actually watch some of the surrounding stuff of these stadiums. I've been everywhere in the SEC but two schools, and this was the first time I actually got to see some of their environments. 11 a.m. game, not really a fan of those early.
Those should be illegal for SEC teams. Sorry, Jacob, your big noon can keep them.
Yeah,
well, it was we've fun. Had this conversation.
Yeah. We go on and on and on about Gus Johnson.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was a very fun game. Like, the Tigers held into it. Both those supposed fumbles, to me, they're almost identical plays. I'm just glad it worked out for us on the second one. First one, almost identical. And I will say, hats off to the refs on those two situations for not blowing it dead immediately. Too many times do you see refs blowing plays dead.
Yep.
And then having to do it under the current rules every turnover that the boot's going to review it anyways. So why not let it develop?
Yeah, just let it play out.
Because in the first one that happened, if we scooped and scored a touchdown there, let that happen. Because in the case they do rule it as a fumble, they get a touchdown. In which case, say you blow it dead, they get the ball, and you don't score, like that. It kind of takes away from the ability of the defense to actually make plays in the situation. So
yeah, they blow them dead in the NFL all the time, and it drives me insane.
It even happened in the Alabama Ole Miss game. Happened early in the game and stuff. So it's nice to see that at least our game they got it right. It actually helped LSU out in the second situation.
Right. One thing that Harold Perkins and I have in common, we're both sick. Harold Perkins threw up before the game, had his Brian Kelly called it his flu game, told him, look, kid, MJ had a flu game, you're gonna have a flu game. Perkins looked at him and said, who's MJ? Like, what? What's shaking your head at, Jacob?
I gotta correct you. Jordan's flu game was not really a flu game.
That's right. It was food poisoning.
It was food poisoning from a pizza that was brought to
the food
him.
Poisoning game.
That he ate before the game that was somebody that did not like Michael Jordan very much.
Yes, I remember that in The Last Dance. They discussed that. But for historical purposes, everybody calls it a flu game. I'm a little shocked Perkins did not know who MJ was. Maybe he thought Brian Kelly was. Okay, I hope so, because how do you not know who Michael Jordan is?
Do it. Yeah.
I mean, but as you could probably hear from me, I'm a little congested here. That's why you keep seeing my camera drop off because I keep blowing my nose. I don't want to show that to the stream. But Perkins, I guess he got all that bad energy out of him. Went out there and played loose. Offense didn't have it. Kind of expected this to be a little bit of a trap game with the big emotional win against.
And it kind of was though. I mean, look at what Daniels played. Daniels played. He let the pressure get to him.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the offensive line didn't really do a great job blocking, but in the end, the
that
positive
happens.
is
But that always happens in the cold games. Linemen it's just hard on their hands. It's rough because a lot of times they're wearing gloves. They can't get a good grip on them.
right.
It's just kind of part of it. So
And another thing, Jaden Daniels is from California, so he's probably never played in weather like that.
Yeah, he's never played in the snow. Let's be real.
Oh, I will add this though. They had a personal heater for him on the sidelines. I was told pregame.
They had coffee, chicken broth,
they had
hot chocolate
And-
instead of
and
Gatorade.
It was funny. I was talking to my boss before a game. I went down, outside the field, talked to him, and so he made a joke to me because Joe used to have a personal fan on the sideline for him every game. He had his own personal fan blowing on him. He goes, "Oh yeah, even Joe's a fan." Like he's like, "Well, Jay got a personal heater for him." Like, of course,
Got to make sure you
the
stay warm.
LSU way, take care of the quarterback, man. Your quarterback does good, you always take care of him.
Yep, exactly.
Which I thought that was kind of fun. I'm like, okay, of course we do.
Yeah. Our luckily our running game was rolling with close to 200 yards of rushing, and then
Josh Williams again, another standout game for him.
Defense stepped it up. Without them, I think we lose. But honestly, a positive from that is that the defense played really good, and so I think that's a good thing to take going forward because the defense is going to have to play like that against, well, not really Texas A&M. Let's be real, but against Georgia, they're going to have to play like that if we want a chance to win. So,
Hey, Neil, my question to you being at the game, was it windy?
Yes, there was a wind out of the northwest, and it happened to be where my seats were. We were on the northeast side of the stadium, so the wind was blowing right at us the entire game.
I mean, the
And
reason
it was
I
brutal.
asked that is because, I mean, it felt like nobody threw the ball in the first half, and it was just it felt like everyone was just like, we're afraid to throw it because the ball's gonna go way over to the left or right. All right,
there was 11-mile-per-hour reported wind. It was in that wind you could feel it. Luckily, it wasn't like strong gusts. And I guess kind of where I was, we felt it, but it was you could definitely see it blowing in from the north side because coming out of the north, and their north side is more open than their south, so that was probably a factor. Which on that late field goal, I'm like, good, at least we're kicking southward because we're gonna have the wind behind us to help us out there.
right, you're not kicking into the wind there.
And you noticed on, I believe it was that punt we had we got lucky that during the fourth quarter, luckily it rolled to the 25, but at that same time the wind did gust a little bit, so I think the wind did play a factor in that punt being kind of bad there.
Yeah.
Well,
Tyler,
we can't talk all LSU. Like, I have to get credit to Arkansas just a little bit.
Yeah, they played a great game.
They're rolling with a third-string quarterback.
I mean, they
late
had
in
a
that
second
game,
and a third.
trying to win it.
Yeah.
And I do give a lot of credit to him. I mean, hadn't really played much at all. And big credits to him. I think it was running that offense is tough as it is. I mean, him being at home is probably a plus. Them being on the road at LSU, I think it's a different story. And I think we've said that all year about LSU playing at home is a big advantage. But I think a lot of credit should go to Arkansas for how they handled
really
the
well.
situation. No
Something
KJ
I want to add
Jefferson.
to that. I want to ask something. So, one of Arkansas's key players in their defense that game, to me, is on the all-time, all-name list. A man named Bumper Poole.
Yep, that's an amazing name. He's been there for like 12 years.
And he was their best player. I only learned about it because pregame they gave him some award for best outstanding scene, some of that. I'm like, oh, that's a funny name. Then you kept hearing it all day long.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they did
linebacker.
He's really good. The dude, stop. Another thing interesting though, Arkansas's announcers never used the word sack once. It was always a run for a loss on every time the play ended behind the line of scrimmage. Never once the word sack.
Huh. Well, they had a lot of sacks on us.
He got sacked 10 yards deep. It was always they always said so Daniels for a 10-yard run for a loss. I'm like, he got sacked 10 yards deep. Like, call it what it is. Like,
yeah, give it was
credit. It was just so weird. And me and my dad were just sitting there laughing. We go, does this man not know what a sack is? Is his first day watching football?
Yeah, that's a little strange.
It was very odd.
Tyler, what are your takeaways from the game for LSU moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you can just see this coming. This was going to be a trap game. I mean, emotional high. I mean, Arkansas, we could be number one in the country and they can be the worst team in the land. They could still, play us tough. I mean, it's the battle for the Golden Boot. They always play hard for trophy games. I mean, even going back to last year's game when they won it on a field goal, like, Arkansas always is going to play you good. I know that their record doesn't show how, talented they are. Like you mentioned, Bumper Pool, Drew Sanders, those are their two good middle linebackers. And then we saw, Malik Hornsby struggle. He did most on the ground, and then backup quarterback, he had that one drive, had that long touchdown to Matt Landers. But in the end, you got to give it to Josh Williams and Harold Perkins. I mean, those are your two game balls for the day. I mean, Josh Williams was pretty much LSU's offense on the day, and then Harold Perkins was the savior and the reason why that LSU will still be in the top 10 and why they'll be heading to Atlanta. But who would have thought that? I mean, LSU at the start of the year, they were picked fifth in the preseason media poll to finish fifth in the SEC, and now they're heading to the ATL to face off against Georgia, and Georgia – if I had to get the line, I would probably give them like 17-point favorite if that opened up
17,
right now.
That's a lot. But yeah, Georgia will definitely be the favorite. But tell you what, watching us lose to Florida State beginning of the season, I would not have predicted us to be in the SEC championship.
I was just hoping for 8-4 or 7-5, but now it's a realistic possibility going 10-2.
Yeah, Brian Kelly's really turned this ship around. So, Neil, it looked like you were about to say something there to end our LSU talk, so we'll let you get to Penn State.
I was just going to agree with Tyler that I personally thought start of the year off 9-3 was probably where we're going to end up. That's just kind of me, how we were in the spring. That Florida State loss shook me a little bit. I'm like, maybe I was too high on the spring. Spring ball never really shows at all. But still, looking back now, I was like, cool. We were projected fifth in the West, and now we're going to Atlanta's number one team in the West.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? And third in the SEC.
And all I got to say is all the Brian Kelly haters can just quiet up now.
Exactly.
Talking from you.
That's how you do year one. That's how you do. You win the West year one. He is now the fourth coach to ever win.
Yeah.
Yep. He joins Les Miles, Gus Malzahn, Greg McElwain, and now him as the fourth coach to go to the SEC championship game in year one.
Yeah.
That's a kind of elite company because I mean
all those guys won national championships.
Right? McElwain didn't.
Yeah, not McElwain. McElwain didn't even get close.
Yeah.
But Les and Malzahn both did it. So that's pretty good company there. Two out of the three previous have done it. So you're here first. Next 2 years that we'll win. We're probably gonna win it all.
Yeah. So I did say at the beginning of the season that LSU was going to make the playoffs and Keyshawn Butte was going to win the Heisman. I was wrong about Keyshawn, but I might be right about about us making the playoffs. So, but
gotta win out, and you're in.
Thanks to Alabama beating Ole Miss in a nail biter, that kind of secures our spot in the SEC. I still think we would have made it there because we probably would have beat Texas A&M here in a few weeks. Bama gets by Ole Miss. Ole Miss had plenty of chances, and they just squandered them away. So they're done. Bama will probably make it to a New Year's Six Bowl, I would have to believe.
Yeah. Maybe. That will depend on if Tennessee gets in the playoffs. It probably has us going to Sugar and then them going to Cotton probably. But if Tennessee doesn't make it mid playoffs, then it's probably them going to Sugar. That's probably going to
That's
Cotton
true.
Bowl. So
that's true. It'd be the first time we don't see Alabama play in the new year. That should.
I think they'll play New Year's
no,
Six.
because they'll have the Citrus Bowl, and that's New Year's Bowl.
That's true.
So.
Well, we can look outside of the SEC here. Jacob, your Nittany Lions had a great game with a routing 30-0. What'd you see from there? And I know your chances of winning the Big Twin are kind of gone with losses to Ohio State and Michigan, but you can still finish with a 2-loss season. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can still finish with a 2-loss season. I think that those chances are very possible. You brought up Alabama and the Citrus Bowl and things like that. I said there's a very good chance that Penn State and Alabama could meet in a bowl game.
That'd be a good game. I'd like to see that.
That would be a very good game. So I'm scared of that at the same time because I know it's Alabama. But no, I do see high hopes, hopefully, for the Nittany Lions being at 14. Playoff rankings will come out. I think they'll move up a little bit based on what's happened to Oregon, some other teams. I think for Penn State, you go back home and you get a 30-0 win against a good Maryland team that's 6-3 on the season. I mean, Maryland kept it in there with Michigan on the road for quite a while, and Michigan just got a late touchdown in order to win that game. I mean, if you're Maryland, you're feeling pretty good going into this game. They always seem to have trouble with Maryland at home. If it's at Maryland, for some reason, Penn State blows them out. I don't know why, because there's more Penn State people that attend the Maryland game than Maryland fans. So interesting thing about the two teams is that there's a very big tie between the two teams, and a lot of people have family that go to Maryland or go to Penn State, and they're really close together in kind of not proximity because they're pretty far away from each other, but school wise, people either choose Maryland or Penn State a lot based on where they are, and you see a lot of people from Maryland go to Penn State. It's kind of a thing, but so sometimes there's a lot of homecoming for people and meeting old friends. But I think as far as the game goes, game ball has to go to Nick Singleton. 11 carries for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dragging guys into the end zone is pretty impressive, especially on a cold day. I think it was 30 degrees was the high at the time. I think it was
that's the norm for these Big Ten games. You better get ready to play in some snow when you're playing up there.
Yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't snow because I should be at the Michigan State game to close out the season. So I'm hoping it doesn't snow because last time I was at a game,
the way that this Arctic blast is going,
it's going to be snowing. You better get ready.
I hope not, but very well could be, and I'll bring some good content from that hopefully. But it's it's one of those things where Penn State is at 14 right now. You're only a 2-loss team, and the two teams that you've lost to are both in the college football playoff as of right now. So I think they deserve a little bit more respect than what's been given them being at 14. I know that your first one is a blowout loss to Michigan, but Michigan's a good football team. I mean, you're going to have them to battle, and whoever loses is obviously out. So it really could be who has the better resume at the end of the day. I mean, it really they can be a top 10 team and play in a New Year's Six bowl game. I think that's completely possible.
I think they have a real chance with the Pac-12 kind of taking each other out there.
Yeah, and I just think that I think the quarterback change is evident based on what's happened. Sean Clifford really didn't do too much, but I think you got a couple of nods from Drew Aller, in that game, and people were thinking, well, we're going to see him in this game. We really never developed. But the craziest thing that happened in the game, and a lot of people are talking about it, I've seen it on Twitter a lot. So James Franklin took a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. The head coach for Penn State took an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, I guess, with an altercation with one of the officials on the sideline.
What did he do?
I have no idea.
Did he slap him silly? Please tell me he slapped him.
I'm not sure, but it's weird.
Laid some hands on the guy.
It's weird, but you just got to have thick skin as an official. There's no reason
really.
for him to make a comment. I don't know what the comment was, so I can't really speak to that fact. But I think the strangest part of it is Penn State was on a 3rd and 10 at the time. And you take a 15-yard penalty, and it turns into a 3rd and 25, and you're basically outside of scoring range.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was 21-0, but still, I mean, it's still a football game at that point. Penn State kicks the field goal, and they pan over back to the sideline, and James Franklin's on the sideline doing push-ups after the field goal. Basically,
that was his punishment.
Basically as a self-punishment, like, hey, that's my bad for screwing that up. And it just seems like
Jacob.
Yeah.
So is that like a normal thing for Penn State? If a player gets a penalty, do they normally have to do push-ups? My interpretation, I figured it was just one of those things that he has a policy of if you get a penalty, you got to do push-ups as punishment. I didn't know if that was a thing that the players already had in place, and he was just doing it to say, "Hey, I'm not bigger than the team. It's y'all's punishment, it's my punishment too," or what. So I didn't know.
Here's the thing: I've paid attention to that sideline so much, and I've never seen that before.
I think that was just strange. A self-imposed
it's
punishment
just
right
self-imposed.
See, I mean, but you get where I'm coming from. Like that seems like something a coach would have that as a punishment for penalty. In my head, like, oh, cool.
Hey, well, kudos to James Franklin for doing them. I mean,
he pumped him out. He pumped him out. Like
how many did he hit?
Of them. 15.
And
one for each yard.
I will say that I love James Franklin. I met him. I got to meet him back in high school. He was recruiting a guy from my high school back when he was at Vandy. Nice guy. Like, dude was an awesome person. That doesn't surprise me.
He's a really good guy. In a lot of conversations that I've heard and seen with many people, he's a really good guy. My problem is his coaching side of things. I don't think he's the right fit coaching wise for Penn State. I will agree. He is a good guy, and that shouldn't be taken away from him at all. But think.
Do you buy the rumors of him going to Auburn then?
I don't, because Penn
I think
State signed him
Jacob
to an
hopes he
8-year
goes to
deal.
Auburn.
Yeah, I can only
would you want
hope
him
he
to?
goes to Auburn. Actually,
No
I
Cadillac
wouldn't mind.
Williams?
I wouldn't mind him going to Auburn. It'd be an interesting fit because back to SEC football.
I mean, he was good at Vandy. Let's be honest. He got Vandy good, and Vandy is hard to be good at.
So I think there's a lot to see there. If you went to Auburn, I could see that happening. But I just think that an 8-year deal he's there for the long haul, and him being from that part of the state and the country, I think he's there for a long time. But I mean, you've only had two coaches.
He's got to win the big games, though. He's got to win the big games.
He's got to win the big. I mean, you've only had two coaches since the early '60s. I mean, that were two big coaches since the early '60s. I don't count Bill O'Brien, really, because that was a joke. But it seems like he's the second. Everybody's like, "Well, he's the second Joe Paterno." I'm thinking nobody in college football is going to be another Joe Paterno. I just feel like there's too much legacy there at the university with Joe Paterno. I mean, a lot of the bars around town still have like Joe Paterno pictures up everywhere, and that guy's a legend in that town.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can take over him. Neil, you mentioned Vanderbilt. We got to talk about Vandy. They get their first SEC win, snap a 26-game SEC losing streak over Kentucky. So pat on the back there to Vandy.
Yeah, I'm excited. And the thing is I was
is that their thing, Tyler?
Yeah, it's a V's up. But the thing is, I was at the LSU game at the time, didn't get to watch it, was keeping up with it because crazy enough, Arkansas Stadium has Wi-Fi in the stadium that works really well.
Wow, Arkansas is ahead of the ball there. Sponsored by Walmart.
It's a similar system with what Ohio State has at the Horseshoe. It's a really well thing. It's a few schools everywhere. It's built in. It's free Wi-Fi. I get live score updates all game long. No issues. I was keeping up with that. The Tennessee Florida games. My sister and brother-in-law were at the Tennessee Florida games. I was keeping up with that game, whatnot. And I kept. I'm like, Dad, Vandy's up. He goes, nah, they'll blow it. I'm like
I was expecting them to.
Then later on, I'm like, Dad, they're still because, oh, they're still gonna blow it's Vandy, And then I wasn't watching it. Then my uncle, he called me on my drive home today and was like, hey, did you see how they won? I said, no. And the way they won with just a crazy series of interceptions in the game that the defense played out. And people are shocked, but Clark Lee, their head coach, is a great defensive mind. The dude was, the guy was DC at Notre Dame under Brian Kelly and was successful there.
Yep.
And it shows promise. Like, Vandy is a team that you have to commit for a 10-year run to give them good. And Clark Lee being a Vandy guy himself, alumni himself, they finally found their guy.
Their answer right there. I mean,
he's a guy
that's a good recruitment.
Won't jump ship to go somewhere new. This is his thing, and if they keep giving them the money that they look like they're giving him for the facilities and whatnot, he could have them being a decent team, which is awesome. Like everybody thinks Vandy be a baseball school and occasionally a basketball school once in a blue moon, but he could potentially get them back to how they were in the Franklin era, where they're getting 6-7 wins a year, going to bowl game, which is what all they want. All Vandy wants is to get the bowl game. That's all they care about, really.
Yeah,
he can do it. That's awesome. I'm glad they found their guy.
He'll be a good recruiter too.
Yes.
So they finally got their win. We got 4 more other teams that also won: Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, TCU, the top 4. What do you got, Tyler? You want to talk about Vandy a little bit?
Yeah, I want to talk more about Vandy. What's crazy? Team A, 4-6 versus a preseason number 6, and now only has 3 wins. Who are those two teams?
Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
Yep. Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. Who would have thought that Vanderbilt would have a better record at this point than Texas A&M?
That's just laughable. That's just laughable.
Yeah. If Vandy gets upset last game of the year, they can still go to a bowl game. A&M
right. Well, they got to beat Tennessee. I don't see that happening. But on the other side, please stop giving
Wouldn't that be insane?
We're not even spending time on talking about that. No, not even an ounce of energy.
Okay, but Tyler?
On the other side, Kentucky, can we please stop giving Will Levis all this draft hype? Because he's not even close to a first-round draft pick, not even close to the top 5. Bryce Young and Will Stroud are way better quarterbacks than him. So Mel Kipers of the world, please stop putting him on top of your boards. It's just insanity. He sucks. He had 100 yards and 1 interception against Vanderbilt. He hasn't proven that he's an SEC caliber quarterback. I mean, they're just way better quarterbacks in this year's draft class. So I don't understand all this draft hype.
I was speaking on that, Tyler. When I first saw that score, I had to check because he's been hurt. You know, I didn't know if Levis played. I'm like, once I saw Levis play, I'm like, oh,
he's not good.
Because I had bought in the hype a little bit of that. And I was like, oh, they probably won because Levis didn't play. Then I was like, oh, they beat their quarterback that was actually decent, you know. So
Yep.
And Wade can agree with me with this because him and I talked about it last night. So that's what brought it up.
You know, you're looking at 3 teams that were top 10, supposed to make the playoff with Texas A&M and Kentucky. And who was the third one?
Arkansas was there.
Arkansas. The 3 top 10 teams in the SEC. Where are they now? They all have losing records.
And they all lost yesterday.
Yeah, they all lost
yesterday.
Texas A&M not even going to make a bowl game. Freaking what's his name from College Football Game? They had him in the playoff.
Yeah,
Desmond Howard. Come on.
Howard had Baylor, Texas A&M, and Michigan. Michigan's probably about like the only team that's like worth anything in this.
Because he went to school there.
Well, of course he did.
I mean, Michigan. Everybody on Michigan could play with one leg, and he would still pick Michigan to go to the playoff.
Well, same as Herbie and Ohio State.
That is true.
Yeah. Speaking of Michigan, the top 4 teams got it done this weekend. They all won. Tyler, I want to ask you, out of those 4 teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, TCU, who do you see ending the season with 1 loss?
Well, it's
pretty kind of obvious. You only got 2, but
it's kind of obvious. It's going to be the loser of Ohio State and Michigan, and right now that's going to be Michigan. I think that State, I know that they played Northwestern close, but they just showed at home what they could do. They put a 56 against Indiana. I feel like, if Michigan can't do what they did last year in last year's game, if they can't run the ball with Blake Corum and then Edwards, like everyone's talking about Blake Corum, but they got a pretty dang good backup running back. So as well. So I think that Michigan's offensive line, needs more like Heisman talk hype as well. So I think at Ohio State, I think that at home, they're going to want revenge. They've been circling this on this calendar. So out of those 4, I would say Michigan.
Okay. Another playoff possible contender was Oregon. They dropped an L this week to Washington, one of our upset picks. And UCLA is also, they were pretty much eliminated, but they kind of are out of even making it to the Pac-12 championship unless they upset USC this weekend. So UCLA and Oregon, I think Oregon losing. USC still has a chance for the Pac-12, but I really don't see it happening. So
they don't have that good enough resume right now to make it.
Yeah. Speaking of our upset picks, we're about to get into them here. But before we do, we got to tell you who sponsors our upset picks and also sponsors our weekly parlay over on Twitter. It's our friends over at Fanatics. I see Neil's got some LSU gear on. Tyler's got some LSU gear on. Jacob's got some Penn State gear on. I have nothing on. I need to take myself over to Fanatics.
Come on.
And get me some LSU
gear.
The
program.
Some SEC West champions. Just like Texas A&M did for their baseball team, which we'll get into that at the end of the show.
I almost wore that hat I have. I almost dug it out, my SEC West champion hat from 19, just for the honor of it tonight.
They do have that gear, division champ gear.
Yeah, so if I'm going to Fanatics tonight, I'm using the code right there, fanatics.n3nctx.net/Sports Scramble. It's a little different than what we had last week. It's now the full name, Sports Scramble. Tyler, what's the coupon code tonight?
All right, with the holiday season around, you can save up to 65% off if none other than Roast. Use code ROAST today at the checkout.
That's an interesting one.
What do you mean?
I guess you roast the turkey.
What's wrong with that? It's Thanksgiving season. We're going to have all that roast meat, baby.
Yeah, so there you go. Head on over to Fanatics. Use code ROAST, ROAST, for up to 65% off all of your favorite team gear. So, with that being said, let's get into our upset picks of the week. We got a little graphic. Audio listeners, warning, you might want to turn us down here for a second.
Yeah, just put it on mute for a second.
Tyler coming in hot with the new content. So upset alert picks. We went 2-2 last week. We had West Virginia over Oklahoma and Washington over Oregon. We lost the Ole Miss over Arkansas and the Texas over TCU.
It was close.
Both those games were close there in the end. TCU just played a lot better than Texas did. Let's be real. Let's start with our guest, NASCAR Neil. Who's your upset pick of the week?
I'm having Navy over UCF.
I saw that and I liked it because Navy played Notre Dame really close this week.
Exactly. And Navy isn't the Navy of the previous years. It's going to be, I hate to say it, but the Army-Navy game is going to be a slugfest because both teams are struggling right now.
Yes.
They're both so bad. Like, it's going to be a slugfest of a game here in 3 weeks, But in UCF played a really good game against Tulane. Really kind of, instead of knocked Tulane out of the New Year's Six conversation. But
which I hated to see that.
Hey, I was looking forward to that possible LSU Tulane game.
Yeah, that's why I was rooting for Tulane, but I guess UCF was trying to be in the New Year's Six. Maybe we can face them off again.
Rematch UCF
and I gotta give
LSU.
And I got to give it to UCF under Malzahn's he's really kept them going from their greatness. But I think Navy gets the upset after how they played Notre Dame. So that's mine.
I like it. Let's book it. We might have to replace Wade on the graphic this week with NASCAR Neil.
Well, this week we will, since we don't have Wade's pick, so we'll put in Neil's.
Yeah.
There we go.
Tyler, who do you got upset pick?
Well, I'm going to SEC country, and I'm going to call the Hogs to get the upset. I'm going to go Arkansas at home against Ole Miss. I think that this is going to be more of an offensive slugfest. Ole Miss's defense hasn't been playing that well. Arkansas's pass defense will be tested against Jonathan Mingo and also Malik Heath. But I think Arkansas, Ole Miss, there's just so many plays there. The 4th and 25 play from a couple of years ago, that crazy. There's always craziness, and it's always high-scoring games. It's been like 52-48 in the previous year. So I think that Arkansas gets the big win at home. I think they really played well against LSU. So I think they're going to look to finish the season with a big win. So I'll go with the Hogs against Ole Miss.
What quarterback you think starts that game?
I think KJ will be ready to go this week.
And if not, I'm rolling with the third string because he looked a lot better than what's his face, track star. I don't even know their names. All I know is that Harold Perkins was chasing them all over the field. But
that's all you got to know, I guess.
Yeah. Who you got this week?
I'm going to take it back to Big Ten country. There's not too many Big Ten games on, but I'm going for the gusto here. I'm taking the Fighting Illini on the road at Michigan.
Yeah, I would agree with you 2 weeks ago, but not after they lost to Purdue.
Now listen, it's going to be the weather is the biggest impact in this game. The high is 40 degrees. It'll probably be in the low 20s for this.
Probably snowing.
Either raining or snowing. So
not as cold as a college game days game.
And it's going to be a low-scoring game, and Illinois is the absolute king of low-scoring games. So I feel like they talked about on College Game Day about Brett Bielema being, who was the coach of the year? The question was, who was the coach of the year? And everyone's like, oh, Kirby Smart's coach of the year. And I said, what about Brett Bielema taking Illinois? I was just like, taking Illinois to a 7-3 season so far. You got a bowl game. So I gotta go with the Fighting Illini. It seems like a wild pick, but I think Michigan's vulnerable. If you stop the run game, they're vulnerable. So I give it to Illinois.
Just imagine like Michigan loses before the big game hype. That would just be
how weird would it be?
What if they beat Ohio State after dropping a game to
and then
what happens?
The Big Ten is completely out.
We got 4 SEC.
No, they're not.
I don't think so. I mean,
I have a question for you.
The question is, how far would Michigan drop if they lost to Illinois?
That's true.
If you lose to the ranked 21 team in the country.
Well, they're going to be unranked after losing Purdue. I mean.
Yeah, I have a question on that about if something like that happens when we get the college football picks. So bear with me here.
Well, Coach of the Year, I would have to say Sonny Dykes. I mean,
with TCU,
going from it's like literally your first year and you're undefeated 10-0, and you're probably going to make the college football playoff. So if you do something like that, it's got to be
knock on wood, Tyler. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. They still got 2 games in the Big 12 championship left.
My upset pick.
Never know. Sorry, go ahead, Chet.
I was just going to say my upset pick this week. Oregon just dropped a game. And I don't think they get it back. I think Utah takes them down. I went between Utah over Oregon and UCLA over USC. Between the 2 Pac-12 teams, I wanted to pick one of them, but I'm going Pac-12 way after dark. Game kicks off at 9:30. Right? Yeah,
it's at night. If it's at night,
it's at Oregon.
Oh, is it? Oh,
well, it's at night. Utah going on the road. I think they get it done, and I don't know what happens in the Pac-12 after that. I mean, Pac-12 pretty much eliminated.
Absolute
contention
chaos.
if
That's what's
UCLA
happening.
beats them.
I mean, just think about it. Like, this could have been like the big weekend for the Pac-12. I mean, you had like 2 potential top 10 matchups of Utah, Oregon, and then USC and UCLA. And UCLA loses, and then Oregon loses. So that pretty much just goes up in flames of the playoff chances for that conference.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think that the Pac-12 is out completely yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it really. I mean, USC.
Well, if USC loses,
USC is pretty much carrying the torch.
Here's the thing.
Right now.
Yeah, I mean, if USC is the only team, based on what can happen, that can win it. So I mean, because they're a 1-loss team, they got to win out the rest of their games, and they would be the fourth. They would be the fourth team to get in without a doubt. I mean, there's nothing higher that they can go there. I mean, I think they have to hope that TCU wins out, because if TCU doesn't win out, they're not in. I mean, neither of them are in. So they're riding the coattails of TCU, I think.
We in for a fun ending.
Yeah, it's going to be something crazy. But those are our upset picks. We got Utah over Oregon. You said Navy over UCF, right? And then Arkansas over Ole Miss. And
Big Suey, baby.
The Fighting Illini over Michigan. That's going to be an interesting one. I feel
like the Michigan upset out of all those would be the just most utter chaos for the playoff committee.
It would be,
and they wouldn't know what to do with themselves after that.
It would be insane. But
make them work for their money.
Yeah.
What you should do is sprinkle a little bit of money on some of these, and then take your winnings over to Fanatics, get you some new gear. So we've been talking about the college football playoff. This might be one of the best graphics Tyler's created. Minus, I really like who got that dog in them in the upset picks, but this one's all-star right here. We're going to get into our college football playoff picks. So here we go. I accidentally played it twice there.
Hey, you know what? It's as good as to play it twice.
Yeah, exactly. So college football chaos is happening. Jacobs predicted
the chaos creator is here.
I am the chaos creator. Let's be real. I have figured out a way for LSU to make it into the playoff, and it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen. Playoff rankings get released Tuesday. I don't imagine
it's a late one, 8:00, because they have the annual basketball. I don't know what the tournament's called. I think it's like State Farm is sponsoring it.
So the playoff picks, they released Tuesday night. Top 4, probably not going to change, with Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU all taking wins. I think they stay there. But after that, Tennessee probably stays at 5. LSU may jump up to 6 with Oregon losing. Mm-hmm. But we don't care about what the playoffs are right now. We're caring about the playoffs at the end of the season. So, Futch, we're going to start with you first. What's your top 4 after December 4th?
Man.
After December 4th.
Well, that's when all the conference championships
are. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll roll through it here. Number 1, I've got Georgia, of course. Most dominant team out there right now from front to back.
Futch, you're dead to me. Just saying. But continue.
I'm sorry. But number 2 is kind of a toss-up, because I picked Michigan to get beat. Only problem is I think Ohio State wins the rest of their games because they're playing at home against Michigan. So Ohio State is there at number 2. At number 3, I'm going to put TCU at number 3 still. And my top 3 really hasn't changed much at all. But for number 4 is where we get some change. It's going to be probably a toss-up between 2 teams. That first one being USC, and the second one being LSU. I think those are 2 teams that could.
Whoa.
Those are 2 teams.
Wait, so North Carolina's out? You've given up on North Carolina?
Well, okay. So based on what I've seen from North Carolina, the only problem is that they're struggling. They're struggling against teams that they should not be, and at home.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a problem there. If they beat Clemson, I mean, that's great and all. But you got to look at their resume and strength of schedule, and they're not up there, and that's the big problem. I mean, LSU's played a very tough schedule. USC's played a mess schedule only because some of the teams in the Pac-12 got better. I mean, preseason rank, it was not a very big schedule. So I think there's still a chance there for Lincoln Riley in the Trojans, but I think Brian Kelly and the Tigers are right there.
So I got to ask you, I don't even know how to word this. Do you have LSU beating Georgia and getting in, or LSU losing to Georgia and still managing to get in?
That's the contingency. I mean, the problem is that if LSU
Tennessee
loses
would have
that
to
football
lose.
game,
USC would have to lose.
Yeah, the only way LSU gets in is they win. They have to win out and beat Georgia. That's the only way. They're not going to let in the 3-loss team. No, 0%.
Yeah, and if that was the case, I mean, if that was the case, I'd almost
Michigan
swap.
Would probably get in.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, because they lose to Illinois and they lose to Ohio State.
Narrow loss, or
well, here's the problem. I don't think they get in. The Big Ten has notoriously only put the Big Ten champion in, even with the two teams being close like that. That's never happened before, and it won't. I mean, there's one thing that will not happen, and that is two teams from the Big Ten.
I think it's
being
pretty
in
much
the top
a lot to SEC teams.
See, I that's where I'm going to disagree with you on Fudge on that.
You think Ohio State and Michigan can both get in?
I think if it's an extremely close game and stuff, and then the winner, and then the championship game is a blowout. But I think that also would have to be if TCU loses.
Yeah, there'd have to be a lot of dominoes to fall for two.
No, not even that though. I think if TCU loses, and the Ohio State Michigan game is the close game, you have a potential case of two SEC, two Big Ten teams getting in.
That would be insane. That would just be crazy.
Because one, I don't think Clemson has a strength. You know, when the ACC has a strength schedule,
right.
It's one of those things. I see Michigan ultimately getting in the 2018 Bama-esque situation where they miss out, had a good team all year kind of thing. I guess if you want to hear my top four, I'm out Georgia, Ohio State. I really do think TCU gets in the 3 spot. And the 4 spot to me is a toss-up. It could be Tennessee because of how it falls, if the Pac-12 falls apart, but really that 4 spot to me is the one I can't set on me because I really do see TCU going undefeated, and then Ohio State winning. This obviously Georgia getting in. So
yeah, the 4 spot has been the issue for the committee, for all the voters, for everybody. It's just who do you put in it?
You give it to a bad Clemson, but I think UNC could probably beat them and stuff.
I don't think. So, I don't think the ACC has a shot anymore.
Clemson's too far away.
Yeah. Let's see. Clemson's ranked. At least
they're ranked 10th before the games this weekend.
Top 25, they moved up to 9. They may go up 1 spot with Oregon losing, but I think they're too far out.
Yeah, I mean,
Tyler, go finish up, Neil.
No, that's it. Go ahead,
Tyler. Who do you got?
All right. Well, number one's pretty consistent. It seems like throughout the contingency here.
Throughout the 3 of y'all.
Well, yeah, the 3 of you. I already know who your number one's going to be. I'm going to go Georgia for now, just the base on how that they play. They really dominated Mississippi State this weekend, 45-19. That was, like I mentioned, that was really like their last test here in the regular season. They pretty much have a walk in the park. I mean, they in the last 2 games, let's be honest with you. But number 2, I'm going to go with Ohio State. Like I already mentioned, I feel like Ohio State's going to win that matchup in Columbus against Michigan. Like, whoever wins that one, that's a de facto playoff game. Whoever wins that one will be the number 2 seed. Number 3, this is where it gets a little shaky here. You have a lot of teams that can be in it. Just a playoff seeding, I'm going to move Tennessee at number 3. I think that Tennessee is going to be your number 3 team. And then number 4 is going to be TCU. The playoff committee is just going to swap that because they don't want to see Georgia and Tennessee in the playoff semifinal. I feel like that would be, Georgia's number 1 seed. You don't want them playing the SEC team. But I think that TCU will run the table. But there is still chaos to still be created. I think that whoever makes it to the Big 12 championship, has as good of a chance. Or, right now, if it stands, it would be Kansas State. And that game was really close. You go back to that game, K-State was really dominating that game. So we've all mentioned, I think that TCU really can't afford to lose a game. If they lose, a single game, they're pretty much out of it. And it would just be create chaos. So I'll have Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, and TCU. That'll be my top 4. Obviously, I know that I had North Carolina, but look at the playoff rankings. They're just too far. They're number 15, and they would just need a lot. You have Alabama, a 2-loss team ahead of them as well. So I think that the ACC champion, no matter what, is out of it.
So I hear y'all are going to be eating some Carolina Ghost Pepper, whatever, Carolina Pepper.
Never made that deal.
Yeah, I still got North Carolina. I still got North Carolina winning the ACC.
I do as well, but they're just too far out.
Okay. So my top 4.
Here we go.
I got Michigan number 1.
Oh,
I think Michigan pulls off the upset on Ohio State. Call me crazy, but I am the chaos creator.
You're crazy.
TCU,
I mean, you're not crazy for that. I'm just waiting for
it can happen. TCU number 2. I think they finish it undefeated. The Big 12 championship, whether it be Texas or K-State, that one's going to be a tough matchup. It's probably going to be K-State, if I'm being honest, but we'll see. I think they get it done. Number 3, my boys, LSU Tigers, baby. They're taking down Georgia and Atlanta. And then number 4, this is where it was a toss-up. Do you take
How is that a toss-up?
How is that a toss-up?
Hold on.
There's no way.
Hold on.
No,
Let me get here. Let me get to it.
If it ain't Georgia, then you're cut.
Do you take a 1-loss Georgia team that
Yes.
lost in the SEC
It doesn't matter. You take
or do you
Yes.
take a 1-loss Ohio State team that probably
A 1-loss Georgia team.
I understand.
That ain't doubt. Like
This is
without a
an
doubt.
SEC show.
the strength of schedule.
As long as that one loss,
Georgia would be higher than us if they beat them.
But what if it's
okay? Well,
Michigan,
I would
Ohio
say
State
that,
in overtime? Michigan
let's
wins on
say
a
like
2-point
Georgia
conversion.
loses to Georgia Tech and like Ohio State, their 1 loss is to Michigan. Then that would be an argument where you could say that Ohio State could get in. But I guess in your scenario, it would pretty much be like 2 losses for Georgia because they have to lose to someone else and then LSU. But
Now,
I think Georgia, even if they lose in the SEC championship, they're going to be in.
I got another question for you. What if Michigan or Ohio State loses in the Big Ten championship?
I think they're out. I mean, it would be like a team like Purdue or someone like that in the Big Ten championship. And I mean, you're going to have teams, like TCU playing a top 25 team at the time. So it's just going to come down to the final game. I mean, especially if they lose by like 10 plus points, and they got to be out.
Okay. Well, I think we've broken Jacob.
Especially like versus like going up against like a Tennessee, because I feel like they're going to run the table as well. So, I mean, their 1 loss is to the number 1 team in the country. I know it looked bad, but in that scenario, you have to put Tennessee over, Ohio State or Michigan if they lose in the Big Ten championship.
So if that's the case, you got, say, TCU remains undefeated. You got TCU at number 1, LSU at number 2, Georgia number 3, Tennessee number 4. Is that what we're doing? Are we putting 3 SEC? If the Pac-12, if the Pac-12, if USC wins,
the Pac-12 would have
get
to
in
be
over
out
Tennessee, obviously,
for that scenario to happen, to have 3 SEC teams in. But the playoff committee, anyone else that has a brain would never do that.
Yeah, I highly doubt that there would be 3 SEC teams. I could see,
and they're going to be like, push the button now, like we want the expansion now.
Yeah,
Go.
I think the only chance you see 2 SEC teams is with LSU winning.
No, 2 SEC teams.
I think TCU losing.
I think that's it's highly a possibility. Whether LSU, loses, Georgia loses. I think that Tennessee is really going to be the outlier on this, because the way that they, if they keep beating teams like 66-24, it's going to be hard, to keep a team out like that.
Well, they do have Vandy at the end of the year.
Well, they're going to beat them probably like 70-0. So,
well, this is our favorite time of the year. College football is just in absolute chaos.
I really want to hear from Jacob. It seems like you mentioned, you broke him.
Yeah, he just had his hand in his face there for a few minutes. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts on a 1 loss of Michigan beating Ohio State and Ohio State somehow getting into the playoffs?
It's not possible. First, the biggest problem is that like I said, it's never happened before. I mean, and I think the last time Purdue won the Big Ten championship was in 1929.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It's been a long time. So almost 100 years. So they're due, but
Purdue has upset Ohio State this time of year,
another
though.
Scenario after this.
They have, but I think a likely scenario, if something like that was to happen, Chet, I still don't think you can put the winner of Michigan and Ohio State over Georgia if Georgia remains undefeated.
I think that's solely on strength of schedule.
I don't think it's on strength of schedule. I just think it's on.
Well,
the
if Georgia
fact
were to
that,
lose the SEC championship,
Right.
I think is what you're getting at.
I'm speaking as if they were to win out.
Okay.
So if they were to win out,
Sure.
so if Georgia was to win out and not lose a football game, they're the consensus number 1 pick. I don't think that anybody is going to go past them.
Right.
Whoever wins the number 2-3 game is going to be the number 2 team. I think Ohio State would be probably the likely team to win that game, especially them being at home. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a touchdown favorite, to be honest with you. Number 3, whoever loses that game is no longer in the playoff. There's no way that's going to happen because whoever wins that game right there is going to murder whoever they play in the Big Ten championship game. They're going to win by 45 plus.
Unlikely.
So that will happen. I mean, so your number 1 team is an SEC team. Your number 2 team is a Big Ten team. Number 3 has to be a Big 12 team. And I think if TCU wins the rest of their games, they have to be the number 3 team, regardless of the situation of any other team below them. At number 4, that's where it's tough. Tennessee's a 1-loss team. If Tennessee doesn't lose a game, I think Tennessee could fill the 4th spot because they're only a 1-loss team.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense that, your only loss is coming to the number 1 ranked team in the country. I get it.
And with them being in the same side of the conference, they don't have a chance to get a revenge game too. It's like a Michigan Ohio State situation.
So that's where you have 2 SEC teams, because you've basically taken the ACC out completely. But I think the reason the Pac-12 is still alive because if USC wins the rest of their games, I still think they make it. Their only loss is to an overtime loss to a Utah team that hasn't lost a home game in 2 years. So it's a good chance that they make it too if they win the rest of their games. That way you have 4 teams from 4 different conferences, and I think they need to get back to that if they want to still keep the 4-team playoff alive for at least a couple more years. I think it's over with where you see something like that happen because you also got to think about the New Year's Six bowl games below it. If who's 5 and 6 at that point, that's what you have to look at. I mean, Tennessee could be the number 5 team. LSU could be the number 6 team. And 7, 8, and 9, you really don't know what happens. The problem is there's too many SEC teams there in order to make 2 teams be in the top 4.
You know why there's too many SEC teams? Because the SEC reigns supreme.
Well, we could look at 2 teams here, that. So let's say.
Just had to get that jab in there.
Well, the SEC actually gets a lot of BS from the ranking committee to open the season because we talked about it. The fact that Kentucky, Texas A&M, it doesn't make any sense.
I give you that one there. Tyler, what you got? Let's put a bow on this. We're an hour and a half in, and we still got a little bit of NFL talk.
Yeah, well, who cares about the NFL? So, let's just say, LSU wins out. They beat Georgia, win the SEC championship. But you still have Tennessee there. Say that they, go the rest of the way 11-1. I know that's easy on paper, but if you were to pick between those 2 teams, they have a head-to-head as well. Tennessee 40-13. Who do you put in the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's your answer right there.
Yeah, I just don't think it's all sunshine and rainbows for LSU if they beat Georgia. I think
if we beat them, I think we're a lock.
Well, I think if you beat Georgia, there's a problem in the top 4. I think that if Ohio State wins, they're the number 1 team in the country at that point. They'd blow out.
This is why we need expansion.
Purdue. Yeah, this is the problem because we spend more time arguing about the top 4 teams when we have 12 teams and we could have 12 consensus teams where there's 12 teams that are 1-loss or 2-loss teams that are really good. And once you get past 12, there's a lot of 3-loss teams there that don't need to be included.
Because in that scenario, all of the conference champions get in the highest group of 5, and then it's the 2 next highest ranked. Simple as that.
I honestly think, what would be strange just to finish this out. I think that group of 5, or since you have Power 5, put the winners of all the Power 5 teams up at the top of the bracket. I think everybody below that's where you can talk about where you place other teams. Because I think in that sense, if you're going to go to 12 teams, I think conference championships should matter. I mean, that's the whole point of expanding 12 teams, was so that conference championships would matter. And I think they should in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I mean,
well,
that's kind
we'll
of,
have it here soon. Go ahead, Neil.
I mean, I was going to say, that was always my philosophy of going to the expanded playoff, is that you, either the 8 or the 12, you have to have your Power 5 champions should always get a guaranteed spot. Not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with you being the top spots, but that should at least guarantee a spot in the playoffs.
Right.
It
has to.
Because
champions have to matter now.
Because you could have a 3-loss Pac-12 champion. They're nowhere near the 5th best team in the country. So they should not automatically give the 5th seed.
Yeah.
Sure. But very rarely do we see a 3-loss.
The same scenario happened like in 2016 with Penn State.
I mean, the Pac-12's had some rough years. Pac-12 had some rough years. I mean, that's they should guarantee a spot for those, because like I said, a lot of times the Pac-12 champion or is nowhere near as good as the SEC losing championship loser. They're not, and as we've seen, how many times has the SEC gotten 2 teams in a 14 playoff, because that second SEC team is that much better than everybody else. So it kind of it's hard to have guarantee them a first round bye, especially with the 12 team getting that first round bye, potentially in the top 4, but that's just the way I look at it.
I think the largest story about it all is that it gives group of 5 teams a little more leeway, and I think they should, because I think there's a group of 5 teams out there that can beat third in the division teams in the SEC or third in the division in the Big Ten. I mean, there are a group of 5 teams out there that will give them a run for their money. So I think it's a good opportunity for everybody across the board.
Exactly.
Yeah. And playoff expansion is coming, so we'll have it here.
Yay.
All right, let's stop the college football talk. Stop the count. We're done. It's honestly, we could talk for hours.
We'll have more tomorrow,
and that's why we have a second show, College Football Coast to Coast, tomorrow.
We'll continue the debate.
Yeah. Let's get into a little bit of NFL talk. And this week's NFL talk is brought to you by our newest sponsors, Yeti. Everybody's heard of Yeti. Neil loves Yeti. Jacob loves Yeti. Tyler loves Yeti. I have a Yeti. When you're tailgating, you need a Yeti. You need a Yeti cup. You need a Yeti cooler. You need a Yeti hat. You need all things Yeti. So right now, Yeti's offering free shipping on orders $50 and up. You can stock up on coolers, drinkware, and luggage. Yeti makes luggage now.
Yep, I saw
Their
that.
luggage is durable for any adventure. You just pop on over to that website. Use that link, yeti.us.pxf.io/scramble, and get all your Yeti needs. Perfect Christmas present coming up here soon.
Yes,
I might go and explore the Yeti options as far as luggage goes for my trip to Pennsylvania. I might do it. I might do like a test as far as like
your clothes,
honestly these airline carriers, they're pretty rough with the luggage.
Mm-hmm.
So Fudge, you might need to get some rugged luggage from Yeti and do a little review. We'll throw it up on the Twitter. I don't need some kid's applesauce, coming out the side of a suitcase, getting all my stuff. Yeah, so you're gonna have you probably gonna have your laptop, your valuables in that suitcase. You need it to stay strong. So head on over to Yeti, use our link, help us out, get you a good Christmas present. So let's jump into it. Speaking of luggage, Leonard Fournette needs to call Yeti, and he also needs to find out where his passport went, because he had to order a new passport, and it arrived 4 hours before their plane left to Germany a few days ago. So Fournette almost did not make the flight, which would have sucked for his fantasy owners, considering he scored a touchdown. And was pretty key to the Bucs taking down the Seahawks over in Munich, Germany. So I thought that was a little fun tidbit there. He almost missed it due to his passport. Tyler, I saw you added that Odell Beckham hopes to sign by the end of the month. Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs, Giants, and 49ers are all potential teams. Who do you think he goes to, Tyler?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I think he goes to Jerry's world to be the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a perfect fit. I think that the Cowboys, they're still
in the wide receiver.
They're still in the playoff race. I think that the Eagles will probably take that division. But if they want to make a deep run, then they need another piece. I think OBJ, even coming off of the ACL injury, I think that he would definitely be a key piece, along CeeDee Lamb. And, he could be the wide receiver too. So that's easy.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I think the other option also was Baltimore. I think there's some room there for OBJ to even go to Baltimore
that would be a
with
very
Lamar.
Yeah.
That way you've got 3 guys that are basically top tier guys at quarterback, wide receiver, and at tight end. So I mean, that'd be a pretty dominant group.
yeah. Well, the Bills doesn't really make sense. They got
Gabe Davis.
they have a lot of weapons there. The Chiefs, they just got Kadarius Toney, so I don't really see that happening. The Giants, I doubt he goes back. He wasn't
No
happy with that
way he
organization.
goes back there.
And the 49ers, I mean, they got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. They got a lot of weapons. I don't see them really taking them on. The Cowboys make a lot of sense. Saints, call them up because we have like no wide receivers. But we
I'm
also
going
have a
to go
quarterback.
the further chat. The Titans need new wide receivers. Our wide receiver, of course, awful, and it showed today. That's for sure.
You probably need a new quarterback too. Let's be honest.
No, Tannehill did pretty decent today. He's just been hurt, and
Yeah.
Willis is just young. But having Westbrook Keenum be our star player today showed you how bad the man's been good for us, but he ain't no superstar wide receiver that you should be counting on to win you games.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in for us today, but I can't count on that.
Odell
too
Beckham
much.
in Nashville. I don't know if that's a good mix.
I mean,
Well, the
amount
teams
of-
that I listed are the only teams that he's going
I
to.
think that's kind of a public. I think it's probably
I
the
think
Cowboys.
the only reason why the Bills are out of the question is because they've got too much right now.
Right, they have the weapons. They don't really
they-
need them.
I'm sorry, but I know Buffalo is kind of good this year and all.
I don't think Odell
somewhat
wants to go to Buffalo.
other
How
than
good
losing
they
some
are.
crap
Well, he
games.
is friends with Von Miller.
Well, the only problem is that Buffalo doesn't have that money. I'm sorry. They do
That's
not have
true.
the money in order to pay Odell because they're about to have the best stadium in the league. SoFi Stadium is about to
that's gonna
not
be
be the
awesome.
best stadium in the league. That thing is crazy. It looks like a winter wonderland.
Yeah, it's a winter wonderland.
Yeah.
They need it too.
I was like, my question is, why is he looking at Chicago? I mean, for the way Justin Fields been playing this year, and they have the cap money to pay him when he wants to get paid. That seems like a logical
They're
move for him to
content
go
with
there.
Chase Claypool.
I mean, that team could use a star wide receiver. they have the most cap in the league right now. They got a good shot, So
Yeah. Well, Aaron Rodgers would love to have him, but if if history can teach us a lesson, Green Bay won't be going after him.
He ain't going to no 38-year-old quarterback.
Yeah. So Tyler, you got to watch this game. I did not, since I'm in Houston, and the Texans were playing at the same time. The Saints, the New Orleans Saints,
Yep.
man. We can't tank because the Eagles get our first round pick. So
That's
what is there to
sucks
do?
about this.
What is there to do now for the rest?
And there's really nothing to do. It's pretty much just wait
Dennis
for
Allen.
this.
See you later.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, it's definitely a different team for sure. I mean, this Sean Payton scheme, the offense just looks flat out terrible. I mean, these are 2 back-to-back weeks where the running game could get going. I mean, Alvin Kamara only had like 26 yards rushing, 29 yards rushing, and then Andy Dalton as well has been struggling as well. I mean, the last week that they really had a good week was the Raiders. They shut them out.
Yep.
The defense has been playing fine. The defense isn't the problem. It's been the
defense
offense.
can't win you games and the offense don't score.
It's like you have like Chris Olave. He had a good game today once again, and Jawan Johnson caught a touchdown. But this Saints offense is one of the worst in the league. I mean, this would have been the year to get a quarterback, like Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, but we had to give it up to the Eagles. So tanking for nothing, pretty much. Woo! What a time to be a Saints fan.
Yeah, really. I almost didn't catch the end of this game thanks to Fox, who decided to show the Packers and Cowboys. I was livid. You got the Vikings and the Bills. Won the ending, okay? Vikings are driving down the field on the inch line. Time's clock ticking down. And they go for a QB sneak with Kirk Cousins. He gets stuff. He doesn't get it, okay? The Bills take over on downs. Pretty much all I got to do is get a yard out of the end zone. They can knee out the rest of the game. They win the game. Well, Josh Allen, for one, they're snapping the ball in their own end zone. Josh Allen fumbles the snaps. Vikings jump over, grab it, touchdown. Vikings go ahead by 3. Then Josh Allen drives right down the field, and they kick like a 45-yard field goal to go to overtime. Crazy game. Vikings win the toss. They drive down, kick a field goal. Justin Jefferson, like Neil alluded to with a Who Got That Dog in him segment, Justin Jefferson makes an amazing catch. to kind of set them up there in overtime. And then Josh Allen gets another chance, and he throws an interception to Patrick Peterson. 2 on the day to Pat Pete. So just a wild game. I was surprised to see Josh Allen in there with that ulnar nerve injury. I mean, if that's a pitcher in baseball, that's automatic Tommy John surgery. You're done. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. We had another game that was not what people expected. Battle of the backups, Arizona Cardinals versus the LA Rams. I don't even know who the Rams quarterback was. But you had Colt McCoy at Arizona, and he lit it up. The Arizona got the dub. So they might.
Kyler can also get some time as well.
Yeah, Kyler might be able to make it back for Double XP weekend here on Call of Duty,
or make it off my fantasy team.
Yeah, really. The Dolphins, man, who would have thought this? I mean, Tyreek Hill's wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Tua is rolling. So now that he's not seeing stars out there on the field, he's doing great. So what are y'all thoughts on Tua?
Yeah, a lot of people had question marks, how Tyreek Hill was going to do, going from the Kansas City office to Miami. But man, he's just the same Tyreek Hill. It doesn't matter which quarterback, I guess, is throwing to him. But this Dolphins team, I mean, they're not out of the AFC East race.
He was wide receiver 1 going into.
They're in second place right now, I think.
Yeah, they're in second place. I think they're like a game behind the Bills.
He was wide receiver 1.
About them as well. They're right there in the race.
Wide receiver 1 going into this week, and he only had 3 touchdowns.
Who would have thought that as well?
Nobody.
Not Jacob. Tyreek Hill, he caught a touchdown today, so he has 4 touchdowns on the year, and he's still wide receiver 1, just on passing yards alone. So that's insane.
I don't think he's wide receiver 1. I think Jalen Waddle is the better receiver.
It's like
in fantasy points, Tyreek Hill is wide receiver number 1.
In fantasy purposes, well,
yeah,
he's the number 1 ranked wide receiver in fantasy points. Last little segment on the NFL. Jonathan Taylor finally got it done for me, baby. I'm going to win a fantasy game for once. I've been holding on to him 10 weeks.
At the hands of Jacob, though.
Yeah, sorry, Jake. Dude, we were neck and neck, and I kind of pulled away there at the end.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not totally pulled away. It's 120 to 116. Let's see. I'll pull it up real quick. Oh, I'm only winning by 121 to 120. You have Devontae Smith left to play, and I have Curtis Samuel.
So, I would trust.
I still got George Kittle playing.
You do
right now.
You do.
Let's see here. Oh, why is my fantasy not working? I still have Debo playing as well. So, but he's not playing.
What? I really just need Jimmy Garoppolo to have a 50-point fantasy outing. So if you could do that, since my fantasy team decided to fall asleep this week after putting up a dominating performance. So yeah, that'd be nice. Well, he already has a rushing touchdown, so he's already doing better than Kyler Murray. So this might be my QB1 going
Jacob,
forward.
I might have spoke too early. This is the fantasy prediction. Me 136.5, you 135.4.
You spoke too early.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a freezing cold takes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close one there at the end.
I will say this
might be on our TikTok if this goes on.
I will say I'm proud of myself. I'm in a Pick'ems league that I used to be in back before I was in North LSU. I wasn't able to do any gambling at the time, sports wise, any level, but as league I was in back before then, I'm got back in this year. All year, I am currently in position to win this week. If I need the 49ers to win, that'll put me in a 3-way tie for tomorrow night, where I have the Eagles winning. So I got to come up with the most likely total points score for a tiebreaker, because I don't think anybody in their right mind would pick against the Eagles tomorrow night. So I'm excited. I've been struggling all year. Finally had my day where, if the Bears had won, I'd be outright first place right now, but Bears bit it for me.
I think they lost by 1.
I know. It was bad. So
just defense.
Yeah.
I know.
That kind of sums up the NFL. I got two little things for you before we end the show here. Texas A&M makes rings for their Omaha appearance last year for college baseball and for winning the SEC West. They didn't win the SEC tournament, did they, Tyler? They were regular season SEC champions.
No, Tennessee blew through the SEC.
So that was funny to see. They got big national championship rings. I mean, I'm talking looks like legit
for getting
World
fourth
Series
place.
rings.
Way to go.
for getting fourth place.
This is why all these players are transferring out of Texas A&M, because that's what the culture is. We give you rings, and we make cups whenever we beat our rivals because of the refs.
Yeah, so
Cups.
little hate on Texas A&M there. TMZ sports segment to end the show.
Oh, I will say something that we spoke about pre-show NFL that was that Coach Saturday getting his win.
Yes, interim coach. That's what I was talking about. Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, Coach Saturday, they all get the win.
Delivering those pancakes.
And
Chad, you might as well Venmo like Saturday $100 just for his, changing of Jonathan Taylor.
And he was so close because apparently 2 weeks ago he tweeted out saying the Raiders were trash, and then he managed to get the win. And then he even said though that he was concerned with how bad the Colts line was, and that was the one thing that he wanted to get right. Look at him today; he got him right, and then Josh Taylor managed to do what Jonathan Taylor used to do. So, hats off to the man. It's a bold move for them to take him. If they can keep this up, maybe they'll do something this year.
Just imagine the story would be if the Colts magically make a playoff run, and you got to give them the Coach of the Year. Might as well.
Yeah, really.
No.
It'd be crazy.
Because the division is lost for them already.
Yeah, it's already lost. I mean, the Titans are they already won.
So we'll end the show.
I'll be sobbing over here in New Orleans. So
yeah, really. We'll end the show with our TMZ sports segment of the week that we're going to start doing.
Hold on.
What you got?
You have a big
currently the 49ers and the Chargers are playing right now. Justin Herbert just got lit up on a slide forward and some helmet-to-helmet contact there. And got nailed. His helmet came off a little bit. They have forced him to come out of the game. The backup quarterback for the Chargers has had to come into the game. Chase Daniels.
Wow. Chase Daniels.
That's what I need there, man. 49ers need the comeback now.
Oh.
Did you bench Herbert this week in fantasy?
I did bench Herbert, and I started Daniel Jones. Yes, I was so tired.
Who would have thought that in this fantasy season that you'd be starting Daniel Jones over Justin Herbert?
Not me.
God.
All right, so we got to end this thing. We're on an hour and 48 minutes. TMZ Sports segment of the week. Drake loses $2 million betting on the UFC championship this week. Israel Adesanya bet. He bet that he would wait. What? He bet that Adesanya would beat Alex Pereira during UFC 281. It did not happen, and Drake is out a clean $2 million. So there wasn't much in TMZ. That's kind of.
I
didn't see Lizzo dancing at a.
I feel like every team that he roots for hasn't won except for the Raptors that 1 year.
Yep, you're right. You know who he's not rooting for? LSU. So stay on the other side.
Yeah.
There we go. We are Sports Scramble every night. Every Sunday night, you can tune into us. Monday afternoons, you can tune into Tyler and Jacob on College Football Coast to Coast. And Tuesday nights, you can tune into Tyler and
Monday night for this week.
Monday night for this week. Oh, we're going double shows.
Double header
for
play
Tyler.
On Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Jacob will be there as well.
Okay. Tuesday night.
We will. Tyler and I will be together at the Pelicans and Grizzlies game in New Orleans.
Nice.
Together but not together.
Not together. Yeah.
So are y'all still doing College Football Coast to Coast on Monday? Or y'all gonna?
Run a little doubleheader.
Okay. I like it. So, all right, College Football Coast to Coast on Monday and Monday night this week, SEC Talk. So make sure you stay tuned. Neil, as always, it's been a pleasure. We took you for a long one tonight.
I appreciate it, guys. Like I said, you didn't need me to film for somebody, let me know. I'd rather hop on here.
You're pretty much a part of our family, so you're.
I appreciate that.
So thanks again to our sponsors, Buffalo Bayou. Finished the beer during the show. Nice little pregame crush can. Fanatics and Yeti. We appreciate everything y'all do for us. And our network, Belly Up Sports. Well, guys, this was a heck of a show. It was a long one. I'm going to have fun editing this one. So y'all have a good rest of your Sunday and have a good week, everybody.